Hey, Ryan Reynolds here. Wishing you a very happy half-off holiday because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. And Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day, yeah? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Take control of the numbers and supercharge your small business with Xero. That's Xero. With our easy-to-use accounting software with automation and reporting features, you'll spend less time on manual tasks and more time understanding how your business is doing. 87% of surveyed U.S. customers agree Xero helps improve financial visibility. Search Xero with an X or visit Xero.com/ACAST to start your 30-day free trial. Conditions apply.
Hi there, and welcome again to the Explaining History podcast. And as you probably know, if you listen to me kind of go on about things over the years, one of the kind of the interests that I have had when it comes to the First World War is looking at things sort of slightly away from the kind of Anglosphere perspective. Looking at how the war was experienced, for example, how the Germans, the Austrians, the Russians, and the Turks experienced the war, purely because I've read enough about Britain's experience. I know a great deal about that, and exploring other voices is always of a huge interest to me. And so this is my return to Ring of Steel, the book I've cited many times. And for my money, it's one of the best sort of single volume histories of the First World War that there is, which is no small statement. So we're looking today at how Germany viewed war coming to its borders, and the threat and the thing that many German politicians and commentators dreaded more than anything else is the idea of the Russians invading. And this is kind of coded with all sorts of prejudices and fantasies and fears about the kind of the great neighbour to the east. And these had been kind of prevalent in kind of Prussian and then German thought for nearly a century. So Alexander Watson writes, "The German people may honestly say once more in this hour that it did not want this war, but it will not allow the soil of the fatherland to be overrun and devastated by Russian regiments." With these defiant words, the Reich's foremost liberal newspaper, the Berliner Tageblatt, had explained on the outbreak of hostilities why so many ordinary Germans believed that they had no option but to fight. In the last years of peace, the conviction of an inevitable clash with a despotic empire to the east had grown within both Austria-Hungary and Germany. Russia's frantic rearmament, her belligerence in the Balkans, the forceful assertion of semi-official claims to Eastern Galicia, and her pan-Slavic press, orthodox proselytizing in the Crown Land, and a surge of enemy spies all raised fears of her hostile intent. In August 1914, the nightmare of invasion became a reality. Tsarist troops charged over the Central Powers frontiers, bringing mayhem and panic to the invaded provinces and the Reich's East Prussia and Habsburg Galicia. The first year of Germany's and Austria-Hungary's war on the Eastern Front would be dominated by invasion, atrocities, and a desperate struggle to liberate lost territories and repel a mortal threat. The Tsar's army deployed at the start of the First World War according to Plan 19, a scheme conceived in 1910 as defensive, but which by the war's outbreak had developed into an ambitious plan of attack. Russia's forces in Europe were divided into two fronts. The Northwest Front, composed of the 1st and 2nd Armies with 16 infantry divisions, 8.5 cavalry divisions, and 1,230 guns, was tasked with breaking into East Prussia. Its offensive was to begin early, the 15th day of mobilization, in order to draw German units away from the Western campaign quickly, and thus break apart the Schlieffen Plan, which is of course out of date by 1914, and thus alleviate pressure on Russia's ally France. The Southwest Front, comprising of the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 8th Armies, which by the end of August fielded 45 infantry and 18.5 cavalry divisions, was charged with the annihilation of Habsburg forces in the Austrian Crown Land of Galicia. The capture of East Prussia and Galicia, which had both jutted into Tsarist territory, sandwiching Russian Poland between them, would secure the Russian army's right and left flanks, preparing the way for an invasion into the heart of Germany. Once the war began, the Russian High Command, the Stavka, discovered that its enemies had sent more units to other theatres than predicted, unexpectedly leaving their eastern borders weakly defended. A further change was therefore made to the deployment. Confident in their superiority in both north and south, and acting on anguished French demands for urgent aid, the Russians formed a new force, the 9th Army, in their centre. With this, they would be immediately ready once the northwest and southwest fronts fulfilled their missions, to outflank the Germans' formidable Vistula defences and attack Posen, opening, the Tsar himself said, as quick as possible the road to Berlin. Few historians today recognise the danger posed by the Russians to the Central Powers in 1914. The Tsarist army's first assault in East Prussia in August and September, although poorly executed and quickly repelled, briefly overran 2/3 of the province and was intended as the preliminary step for an invasion deep into Germany. In Galicia, the Russians won spectacular and early victories, capturing the Crown Land's capital, Lvov, and forcing the Habsburg army into general retreat, and encircling Austria-Hungary's defensive keystone, the key fortress at Przemyśl. At the start of the war, when Russian forces advanced to the outskirts of Krakow, and a new army, the 10th under General Sievers, launched a second invasion of East Prussia, German commanders briefly panicked. For a short time before the Russians were halted in the north and pushed back in Galicia, it appeared that Posen, the gateway of the main invasion route into the Reich, faced imminent siege. The stakes were high, for Russia's rulers and army quickly developed extensive territorial ambitions. Influential voices in St. Petersburg were pressuring for the permanent annexation of at least the northerly parts of East Prussia by the autumn of 1914. For Galicia, Russian plans extended far beyond their mere conquest. The Tsarist army regarded this campaign as a war for racial unity, and it formulated radical plans to remake the east of the territory into what would be not only politically but also ethnically Russian land. This dream looked forward to the bloody racial design or Generalplan Ost, which the Nazis would embark upon in the same region only a quarter of a century later. And of course, there was a kind of a Stalinist ethnic reordering. Stalin moved ethnic groups who he found suspicious around, and thought that certain ethnic groups like Poles within the Russian Empire had affiliations to counter-revolutionary forces, and so entire ethnic groups had to be moved. So when you look at the map of Europe after up to 1945, 1945 is actually the moment where you start to see kind of in Eastern Europe at least kind of homogenous ethno-states emerging out of these kind of patchworks of integrated or sort of balkanized type nations and communities. Mass deportations, enormous amounts of hardship, and genocide is what moves people around between 1914 and 1945. While Tsarist plans did not share the Nazis' genocidal intent, they placed racial considerations at the center of the region's future, contravened international law, and caused tremendous suffering to hundreds of thousands of people in 1914 to 1915. The ordeals of the Central Powers peoples in the Eastern invasions at the beginning of the First World War are today forgotten, obliterated by the memories of far greater horrors perpetrated in the same lands of the mid-20th century. Yet at the time, the invasions were recognized as a defining experience. No other event did more to shape Central Europeans' understanding of what was at stake in this war, or the abilities of their states to fight it. The shock invasion reverberated far beyond the battlefield. News of the Russian attack and atrocities in East Prussia horrified and mobilized the population of the whole Reich. Both Central Powers, but most acutely Austria-Hungary, faced humanitarian crises as floods of refugees swept westwards. Yet the people who remained in the invaded areas suffered most. The Tsarist army's jarringly modern ambition, not merely to conquer but also to remold the population of Galicia, impacted in ways ranging from obtrusive cultural assimilation to mass deportation. And its spy fear and security paranoia generated a brutality towards civilians which, in contrast to the very rapid dissipation of German violence in the West, radicalized throughout the campaign, producing ever more violent actions and suffering. Moreover, invasion was always traumatic, even under the best of circumstances, where it was brief and the invaders behaved well. Long after the occupying troops had departed, powerful emotions of fear, anger, and humiliation lingered. A close look at one Eastern Prussian city, Allenstein, during the Russians' August invasion, illustrates how deep these scars could run. So this, to me, is fascinating. This is where we get to do some really, really, really valuable work, and looking at this text. In that, the Russian invasion of East Prussia and Galicia is, again, largely forgotten. Largely, I guess, as it says here, because the actions of both the Stalinist and Nazi regimes in Poland from 1939 onwards are so monstrous and abhorrent that previous atrocities get erased. But the significance of this and in how it shaped mentalities and outlooks and ideas and feelings and beliefs from 1914 onwards is really, really important, and shapes not just the politics of the war, but also the politics of the interwar period. When people look at Russia in the interwar period, when they think about Russia, and when they think about kind of this sort of idea of the threat in the East, it makes kind of some of the it makes the kind of appeal to some extent of Nazism more understandable.
Hey! You want to pay just $10 for your phone service at Boost Mobile? Just $10 for your phone service at Boost Mobile? Yeah, I totally do.
This holiday, the best gift is for you. Pay just $10 a month for the first 2 months, then $25 a month forever with unlimited data, talk, and text. Offer valid at boostmobile.com. After your first 2 months, you'll pay $25 a month unless you go online or call to cancel. Requires autopay.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. You know, one of the perks about having 4 kids that you know about is actually getting a direct line to the big man up north. Mm-hmm. And this year, he wants you to know the best gift that you can give someone is the gift of Mint Mobile's unlimited wireless for $15 a month. Now, you don't even need to wrap it. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
For 25 years, Brightview Senior Living Associates have been committed to creating a vibrant culture and delivering exceptional services, making Brightview a great place to work and live. If you're looking for a rewarding opportunity to serve your local community and grow, we want you to join our team. Brightview Senior Living is growing and actively seeking vibrant associates to join our community teams, including directors, healthcare, activities, hospitality, and dining. Apply today at careers.brightviewseniorliving.com. Equal employment opportunities. Text BV Jobs to 97211 to apply.
The city of Allenstein, with 33,000 inhabitants, was what passed in agricultural East Prussia for a major conurbation. Founded by the Teutonic Knights in the mid-14th century, it had a long history of sieges, sackings, and occupation. The town's most famous resident, the astronomer Nicholas Copernicus, had taken time away from his studies to organize its defense during the Polish-Teutonic War of 1519-21. Allenstein had been captured and half burned to the ground by marauding Swedes at the start of the 18th century and occupied by Russian troops during the 7 Years' War of 1756-63. The French, too, had taken the town, mercilessly plundering it in 1807. Napoleon narrowly escaped assassination in its marketplace. Yet, for the remainder of the 19th century, Allenstein had experienced an unaccustomedly long period of peace, and in its final decades, rapid development. The town became a busy rail junction, and its population expanded quickly, quadrupling from 4,800 in 1864 to 19,136 in 1890, and then nearly doubling again over the following 20 years. By the early 20th century, there could be no doubt that Allenstein was on the rise. In 1905, it became a regional capital. It was designated a self-governing centre in 1910, and the Prussian military chose it as the base of the newly established 20th Army Corps in 1912. When war broke out 2 years later, the city was engaged in the building of a grand town hall, designed appropriately in the architectural style of the German Renaissance, to symbolize its new importance. Lying only 50 kilometers from East Prussia's southeastern border, Allenstein was certain to become an early victim of any Russian invasion into Germany. Its citizens, aware of their vulnerability, had followed the international crisis in July with deep apprehension, and news of hostilities between Austria-Hungary and Serbia prompted a few of the most cautious to leave. Once Germany declared war against Russia on the 1st of August, others also decided to seek safety. The rich, with funds to travel and social connections beyond East Prussia, were the first to go. A rumour invented and spread by the wife of a second lieutenant in the garrison that officers of the 20th Army Corps had been ordered to send their families into the interior as the army was to withdraw behind the Vistula River, well to Allenstein's west, hastened their departure. The majority of the city's population, the working and middle classes, stayed put. However, until the middle of the month, traumatized refugees arrived from the border districts with stories of terrifying Russian atrocities. Farms and villages have been burned and rampaged. Towns by rampaging Cossacks. Towns laid to waste by rapidly approaching Tsarist armies. There was talk of murder, rape, and sadistic brutality. Women, for example, were supposed to have been nailed to barn doors or forced to watch their children as their children were crucified. The population's uncertainty and anxiety increased. Many more Allensteiners now packed their bags and headed west by rail, on horse-drawn buggies, with bicycles, or even on foot. Concerned at the swelling exodus, the city's mayor issued a poster on the 22nd of August dismissing the foolish rumours and appealing for calm. As I have ascertained from the responsible authorities, our situation is entirely favourable, he reassured citizens. There is no cause for alarm. The shock was therefore all the greater when, during the night of Sunday the 23rd of August, civilian state officials suddenly left Allenstein. For the population, this act of betrayal both signalled that the Russians were close and lent further credence to stories of their barbarity. Panic broke out as people scrambled to leave. Thousands of families are storming with their belongings to the railway station, recorded local teacher Herr Rittel in his diary. Very many stand day and night on the overcrowded platforms without managing to depart. His neighbours were so anxious to get away that they abandoned their frail 94-year-old grandmother and locked in the apartment. Early on the morning of Tuesday, the 25th of August, the military too announced its intention to leave the city. It warned residents not to shoot at the enemy and comfortingly claimed that its withdrawal would avoid any risk of a firefight and allow them to remain at home.
Why does every recipe I try need 18 ingredients, including a jar of something paste I'll never use again, but will sit in my fridge for 9 months? I just want dinner in the oven, fast. That's why I love Blue Apron's new one-pan assemble and bake meals. They send you fresh ingredients that are already chopped. All you do is put it all together and bake. That's it. No chopping, no weird leftovers, just delicious, easy-to-make meals. Get 20% off your first 2 orders with code APRON20. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here, wishing you a very happy half-off holiday, because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. And Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day. Yeah? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Where they were best off. Hardly anyone was prepared to believe it. When a few hours later, at 10:45 a.m., the final evacuation train provided for the public departed Allenstein, it was a disturbing sight. An immensely long train composed of coaches, cattle trucks, and goods wagons, crammed full with people who even stood on the sideboards, wagon roofs, and the brake houses. Passengers thought themselves lucky, but false reports of a victory led to their train being stopped 90 kilometers down the line in order to turn back. The exhausted refugees were decanted in Allenstein on Wednesday morning, just in time to witness the first Russian troops enter the city. By this point, Allenstein had almost emptied. No more than 3,000 people, fewer than a tenth of the residents, remained. Among them were some of the poorest, who, once the station had been evacuated on Tuesday, grasped the opportunity to pillage first its refreshment rooms and goods sheds, and then nearby shops and apartments. The remainder waited tensely in their homes. An eerie silence ruled in the city centre that evening, yet the city's fate remained unclear. Optimists were encouraged on Wednesday morning by rumours of great Russian defeats and by the return of the refugees to the railway station. The city's trams resumed service, contributing to an air of normality. Many residents nonetheless prepared for the worst. Paul Hirschberg, a well-off hotelier and city councillor, buried his account books and insurance policies in the wine cellar. Rittel's wife, who, unwilling to expose her children to the hardships of flight, had decided to remain with her husband, bought 2 bottles of cheap sparkling wine, sausage and ham, and laid this food and drink out in her front room in the hopes of pacifying rampaging Russian soldiers. The senior municipal officials, who had chosen not to evacuate, also planned for the enemy's arrival. In the best Prussian tradition of public spiritedness and paternalism, Mayor Zulk and his deputy Herr Schwarz, the senior Catholic and Protestant clergyman Father Reichel, and Superintendent Allenstein, and the police chief had all resolved to stay with their beleaguered citizens. These men would play a crucial role in ensuring that Allenstein and its inhabitants passed through the coming 48 hours of danger largely unscathed. So, the First World War, as it is seen from a kind of a British perspective, is not one where a land invasion was considered even remotely feasible. I mean, there was all sorts of kind of scare stories in the kind of half decade before the war, and prolific spy novels about, the Kaiser's ships kind of assembling in off the coast of kind of Schleswig-Holstein or wherever it was to across the North Sea and land in Britain. But that was kind of almost inconceivable, really. But for continental Europe, land invasions by your neighbour, be they German or Austrian or Russian or French, were a thing. And towns near the borders live with a particular mentality and outlook, shaped by this reality. And the fear of the Russians turning up was something that was acute in the minds, particularly in 1914, in the minds of people that lived near the German-Russian border. So we'll find out more about what happens in Allenstein maybe later next week. But I'll leave it there. Guys, the things really kind of extraordinary things really are happening with the Explaining History podcast. We've seen an absolute explosion in listenership. So I'm very, very grateful to all the people that are now listening, wherever you are in the world. And I'd love to hear from you. I really, really would. So please do drop me a line. I'm always available for interesting chats. Also, just to let you know, we're going to be running I haven't fixed a date yet, so I haven't done the big razzmatazz announcement, but we are going to be doing an A-level history study course beginning next year. We're going to start off just doing some study days, and then there's some more stuff after that, I think. So it'll be me talking to you directly, probably for the first time ever, in a live experience. We'll be doing a kind of webinar, Zoomy sort of thing. So remember to check that out. And it'll be for students of Russian history looking to maximize their grades for next summer's exams. Take good care, folks. All the best. Bye-bye.
This holiday, the best gift is for you. Pay just $10 a month for the first 2 months, then $25 a month forever with unlimited data, talk, and text. Offer valid at boostmobile.com. After your first 2 months, you'll pay $25 a month unless you go online or call to cancel. Requires autopay.
When you're in love, everything feels electric. Every glance, every laugh, every promise of tomorrow. And when it's time to ask the most important question of your life, you need a ring that tells your story perfectly.
That's where Tacori engagement rings come in. Handcrafted in California, every Tacori is made with passion and artistry.
Blending modern sophistication with the iconic crescent silhouette. Each ring is built not just to shine, but to symbolize love that lasts forever.
And forever starts here.
At Mervis Diamond Importers, we're DC's premier source for Tacori and the world's most brilliant natural diamonds. Couples have trusted us for generations because we offer more than rings. We offer guidance, expertise, and a deeply personal experience.
Imagine the moment you open the box and the Tacori diamond engagement ring sparkles. And the answer is yes. It's the beginning of forever.
And it starts with Tacori, only at Mervis.
Mervis Diamond Importers, the premier destination for Tacori and fine quality diamonds in DC. Make an appointment at mervisdiamond.com or call 800-HER-LOVE.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Explaining History. This podcast is an independent production, and it's listener support that keeps these conversations going week after week. If you find value in the show and want to help cover the costs of research and production, please consider making a contribution. You can join our community on Patreon or make a one-off donation. Just follow the links in the show notes for this episode. Every bit of support is truly appreciated. Thanks again for listening.